Mede baako bɛfam.
Okay. Hello. Welcome to Sikasem. When we say Sikasem, we say ho adwuma. Nti ene me ne me ofa sika kam ha. Send every Monday 7 to 9 p.m. Ye sika ho sem ho adwuma no. Eno na ye start aye ho adwuma sesia. Wazi, mechi out.
Yeah, me just open the guess here.
And say 2 weeks ni ye hu ha me boa and 1 week.
I think that yeah, it was 2 weeks. Back on the any legend here, but yeah, 1-on-1 it was 2 weeks.
It's obia for joining in. Sikasem. You know, kind of friend saying, Lumba the kind of say, Sikasem, one who near Bemo Yakora, we pennies no Yakora. Hey, and it was so baby now. Penny Akurati, I could not penny from no. Sometimes yeah, is Kasem, yeah. You know, be Kakramaya.
Aye, and it will be
say, my more time kakran sana. Yeah, you name them. And then your topic no topic be a damakuma suye. Topic be a damakuma suye pa say no risk, no wealth. Why playing safe keeps you broke and keep us broke. True pa. And I justice to this question. And I said this topic, a question, a very justice to it. Because he will be on my life I hear boy. It means I can't see a plane is safe no. I say I be a part of our DNA. Now what is happening so a part of you are ma nyaman timi kokosu yo kwasi.
Yeah, for baby. Yeah.
Fafria na bibi kakra wo ma ye no.
Sharp.
Joe mechiao Jonati Island wa ha mechiao Joe.
Okay. Yeah, and your chair phones of a birthday that's near Quiniano. And history, no. I'm saying a live show you can't be big crana, you're legend, you know. I'm saying nya Quinian San Kabimti and a call a honica crabby. So and today in African history, you see a big crabby about the trans-Saharan slave trade. And I say Binso Freno, the Arab slave trade in Africa. By a per se state emphatically say talking about this history is for learning purposes, is by no means attacking anybody's religion. So and the trans-Saharan slave trade, in PMP, nipa we transatlantic slave trade and only the European slave trade na call so it did be by America ha and no nipa we in no eba kwa yenche. But slave trade we or na friend trans-Saharan slave trade or the Arab slave trade. And it lasted for about 1200 years. So it started from 650 AD to about 1920. There's a transatlantic slave trade no koso krano na enonso yeden koso. And no, what happened was that they took people from the eastern part of Africa, the central part of Africa, of course, northern part of Africa, and some part of western Africa. And the funny free baby be na ye maba boa anu trading hubs. Remember, transatlantic slave trade, you said New York, the Wall Street was one of the hub. Over trans-Saharan slave trade and also the Arab slave trade, yet the Arabian countries, the Gulf countries, Persia, Baghdad, Iraq, all those countries, and even Turkey is part. Omuna elidis slave trade asemi. So they will group them in a place called Zanzibar, which is in Tanzania. Ibimunsu yedi omoko Egypt. Yedi omoko baby. And near money, from their money, and they said for this particular slave trade, it was targeted towards females and young children. And the reason is because whilst the transatlantic slave trade focused on getting energetic men who will be able to work on the plantation, the trans-Saharan slave trade or the Arab slave trade focused on women and young children because they used the women as their concubines for sexual pleasure. Now, into offer any part four during that time now. Emu 3 eye ma ana nkora emu ba ko pe na ye bema. Now, what makes it very, very detrimental in the lives of African is that it lasted for over 1,200 years, and it took people around 10 to 18 million. And it almost far sa a year way mu. Omo a ɔmogye Islam som ne to mu no yɛanhyɛ ɔmo ani ɛyɛ gidigidi saa but one gyan to mu no the kind of atrocities that they will pass through was nothing home to write about. Transatlantic slave trade did a similar thing for people who were forced to become Christians. And one day the letter that Pope Nicholas V gave to King Alfonso I of Portugal in 1452. We know so mmarima kakra na omutimi fa no, what they did was that they castrated them. So they will castrate them. And remember at that time, even anesthesia so the survival rate for the castration of the men was 10%. Next year, your castration now 90% surety say one year obey the ubeu. And the idea was for them to depopulate the people. And also when the people are gathered, they will not be able to mate with a man or more. Until they saw with their eyes that these Arabs raped their daughters, raped their wives, raped their nieces, and did so many atrocities to them, and they gave them a false identity. And that is why a lot of people will fight for their religion, whether it is Islam, whether it is Christianity. He will fight against somebody who is not called Ibrahim or Muhammad or Isa. But then near ono the asana no on penasa, even though that person is African, you know the abia togbi no on penas, you know the abia can come on penas, but they will fight for somebody who bears the name maybe James, who bears the name maybe Michael, and all those kind of things. So it painted something in the mind of Africans. And to conclude it all, what this has done to Africans is that now we suffer from something we call psychonegrosis. Psychonegrosis is when the African does not really believe in whatever thing that he has, but then they are always seeking for validation from whether it is the European or the Arab, because these two groups of people, even though they came to Africa to study, we were very welcoming, but they use our hospitality as our weakness to fight against us. Into Ohana said, "Oh, sumbi whether Islam and Christian sumna." Kushia, even the names that some Muslims have, meaning, a lot of people don't know. They take the names because they love it. It's the same thing for Christians during the transatlantic slave trade. It's any history, Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Say kind of for study purposes. We are not attacking anybody. Send you sit baby a dano when you're there. Yeah, attack you be a. Yeah, Shadi, and a topic not say kind of no risk, no wealth. Why play safe keeps us broke? And yeah, you do. You see, many people dream of financial freedom,
right?
But to me live that whole life. No, we are all, most of us are stuck in this surviving type of or surviving mood, all because of this one of the biggest reason being, either say we are scared, fear, or risk. We don't want to take risk. You think it be high risky. It's ama financial freedom I pesi no, because you na then ke pen no emi ntimi nya no. And then e pesi ehwe na ye ka ho asem, because tell na make an mu bebre ho no ma this situation aye bibi a ama yentimi endi ho yi eba finance ho a na nye finance ko a. But I said because of this program, the purposes of finance, you be focus more on finance, but throughout your life, you be a but before see best start, like, share, and subscribe. Now, I mean, can we be a classroom for paradigm? Wednesday is your program, be a friend paradigm. Also, in your live show, subscribe to Patrick Berfi YouTube channel. Bet me abo amonya. Your name Kofu be break kasa or more or different mind. Obi ne kind or say you won't be broad ma and you my actually be drew say no. ɛnyɛ adeɛ boaeɛ nti ɛwɔ mu si yɛhwehwɛ sɛ still yɛbɛdi yie yɛnya different adeɛ so afei na asɛ aduru sɛ dɛn ne yɛbɛtumi ayɛ koraa ma yɛatumi adi yie abɔ sɛ na yɛaka wɔ hɔ ebi na yɛbɛka ho asɛm risk ne nyinaa ka ho paradigm shift ɛne nkurɔfoɔ kasa ɔmo deɛ ɔmatumi atiki anaa ɔmotu anammɔn a ɛkɔ so ma ɔmo nyɛ sɛ bi ɔmo aduru anaasɛ ɔmo nam kwan so bebree so aduru nti wotie a ɛboa ma wo so tumi start sɛ wo so tumi ɛyɛ biribi nti share, like and subscribe now. Also subscribe to the Patrick Bear YouTube channel between aboa mo nya paradigm shift. No race, no wealth. Why playing safe keep us broke? Because you can be a no risk, no wealth. Sunny start playing safe no.
Yep. No risk, no wealth. Of about we and a topic in here topic be a yama yen be before once we are seeing kasano life itself is a risk because you were somewhere and your mom and dad met way in a fertilizer mommy egg, you know, and I'll buy it's a risk. It's a risk that the egg took and then you came to the world. Nti unyabe wura asasi mu ano, you are at war. And this war that we are talking about, you know, the number one thing that everybody is fighting for is financial freedom. And you can only get a financial freedom through wealth. And for you to get that wealth, you know, say you take a risk. Say oyewa adwin say obe deny on hu niam bi. So oyewa adwin say me nyama adwin say me de me mpɛ me ho asɛ me de nyamenya na ye I'm trying to be average. I'm trying to be this salary near the mami na ye okay. If it is really wealth that you want to create, ya kukudro ana ye de chichere. Obia na koko ne koko edru ana etimi chichere ejapade kese na so ni ho mpa I want to atwaso bebrebe miensa na ena enum no. They able to enjoy from this wealth that we are talking about. A lot of people think that they are so wise or they are so knowledgeable. But ukumupa a risk. Unya kukudrubi say, okay, ubia nya media meden meye. So if you really want wealth, you should be willing to take risk. You should even be willing to lose some money. If you are not willing to take that risk, even to the extent of risking your life at some point, because you didn't one here you will not be able to like get back again. So
you
are not ready to take risks. Wealth is not your friend.
Etino, why playing safe keep us broke? You see, your points kakra han my name be share. One, you say, see we, you were raised to avoid mistakes, not manage risk from school to home. We are told to, play it safe. So many fear trying anything new, especially with money. Like I said, when it comes to risk taking throughout your life, I said, even form way, maybe no, and in a risk. We are risk now by.
Risk. Yeah.
Your friend say, spend no a tour over 500 million spend, and then I will now buy. Risky other kiki now now pay. It hold no. But I had you right from school. Just say, straight up school. If you it's clear, don't mess it up. Do not mess it up. It's am I your crano? Yenye address ye betra crania bebree. But you who say we shame nipa bebree a omatimi adi yie. Oma successful so many things are a risk and a am I koi. It's ya clinch to so playing the safe sama. I say ye sort of security be it de piano a ba adwuma mu a ba de mu na se sa na ye hey a background na bi won kra sometimes as much as the I talk about say yen try say be debt near the kra no but how your businesses near the sometimes you have to take those things wisely but ni na no you play safe it almost all the time no the bia na share corner yen hwe maybe etia na etie because you adika catch say don't mess it up. It you so okona oko mess bibi up. But yes, life tie. especially when it comes to finance. You have to take that risk. You see, not long ago, I check a crowd by Biasa, 2023, Bank of America, Chase Bank, all these big banks, financial institutions, beginning of the year now, say that year, no, there's going to be recession. Data was there. It shows there was going to be the recession. What did people do? I'm up for statistics. I'm going to cut sidelines. Guess what happened that year? The stock market, S&P 500, went up 24%.
Yep.
24%, whopping 24%. It is at 100,000 and Kawana 124. You see? So risk, untimi emfa enyi mfiri ho ma ne nye yie. Ba yɛ de ne yɛ de bia no ɛnya de wo see take risk. Be bia yɛte a ne yɛte. Kyɛ sɛ wɔamfiri comfort zone mu a ɛntimi nye yie. Ɛno nso nkyerɛ sɛ no nti no wobɛgyegya ho saa. Calculated risk. You see, nipa bebree take risk. I said they avoid it instead of managing risk. You have to, you can, if you avoid it completely, that is where you can be of yourself, because the moment you start taking risk, that means you are living a different life. But maybe also wow see, because your life, throughout your life, now you take risk na be so your friends say, I'm not going to take that risk. Remember, you start from collaborating, you take risk. You start to see an auntie. Hey, don't do it, you might fall. When I catch you say you might, you've been falling.
Fall.
That was sorry. And so you might fall. Hey, don't do this. Cry. And so cry not if you know. Until we shall we as a sanity. Hey, throughout our life, risk no, but you do baby pay. That's our risking now because of a near my idea, my free school, free fee, any sign money no, the whole thing that change. I feel the near. But remember, I always see when it says one take a risk. There are two things in the world. You can't stand the same. Either you die or you live. It is say, we say me jaho na me jina ho dia oboa. Kakra. Just say unye hu ne sa. Kakra na fi no improvement me my life.
Yep. Most Ghanaians want guarantee before trying. People often ask, what has it done before, or will it work? But real wealth is built by pioneers, not followers. And Pempe, Bubi to me for us, me 100,000 Ghana cedis, $100,000, me unia, me fine. And then I'm this can be more and no, if the moment you have that perception, it means that I did now on the senior we want to play it safe. Anybody who is trying to play it safe means they want a guarantee or surety. But life is in constant flux. Near my ass is certain, so there are so many uncertainties. And until I come, no crown, wait me at 12 free, garage, and I say auto shop on the PSC, so you can get a blown engine.
Now, who be there? When you blow engine, cry, a hand to say use car.
Yeah, you can get a blown engine.
Mercedes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perfect engineering. Or talk on the engine blue. It's unheard of, but it can happen. Obviously, take a risk or better car or auction. But we're training for better 20 years and so it has a team pay assurance. So even stock market and ETFs ni say yeah, to be a preachy. Meaning say a casa fisher say you be preachy say don't panic. Keep on buying if you want to buy. That's all your own talk rampon and you manning them. And we see what is going on. I'm a living testimony of that. It's not like you have so much in it, but being consistent in the little that you have and then taking that risk, trusting the process by any pimping Ghana for your going to any year with ye penia as obia that yes ye pese ye ko try be, but world builders are ones who always are looking at the fact that obi nye we bi da nti maame nso menye dey men try bi enra me ne madam for be interview the page needing the coco chem or no chere chemistry in tree. It is the first of its kind. Yeah,
Wow.
like yeah, YouTube or YouTube. And of about for the first time in my life, numeration measurement system to say be a convert be a code 2 decimal place significant figures and saying you see the past exams, but a ban in TS I was able to understand it from him.
Mm.
He took a risk. He took a risk to what? To do it. But obisa no say who has done this before? Ana obi anya bi da no man abemubu ya enko onye de. Onye. Nti
Oh,
e
yeah.
den ne kwa kosi. If we really want to create wealth, especially in Ghana for aye ofi ne wa kwentum or Africans in general, we should not only seek for guarantee. And nti na nipa bebre wo ho a adwuma wo yen wayɛ for 10 years. Inko take risk e prepare ni resume mpo ana apply to a step ahead and ko binya. Ba watena wa ama or complain say akrakecho bi ba ya wa ba be san no ho. Meanwhile, wo ni madwuma ne kyɛn no.
Mm-hmm.
But you are so much like oh yeah okay with the fact that okay maybe I'm in payment once more maybe so far as I'm able to pay my rent and this that okay, we are not ready to move that extra step. So real wealth is built by pioneers. Pioneers here, maiden edition. Pioneers here, one almost say bibi ase ansa kra na afoforo aba be den. Aba be dey. It's a risk. And ya yen papa despite ABA in museum na no for auto show Ghana ebi ni ho. And I think even West Africa ye ni bibi asa ho. He took a risk. ABA and kebefa, ABA emfa. She say we bia no. And I'm pretty sure that people will go there, even if they have to pay 50 cedis per hour or maybe the whole day. But I'm sure that they will go and pay it. But if he had played it safe, say, oh, you will it work? Is it going to work out? And can take his risk. Why are you know? I'm confident that abeye japade so ni ho mpo a ne mma ebetimi aba abeye den etimi aba abefa enso aye den edidi ho enkakrakra. So we should be risk takers. We should not always as in ye follow ye pe cool way. Even stock near here okay ube chidemu de bia o chire mutual fund it o chidemu pa so still I say na me den na me discussion mo a enhye.
And she.
But we forget that before the upliftment, before a rise, there is a fall. You need that momentum. And for you to get that momentum, you have to be at the fall level. No? And
That's
sign
right.
what you mean at the momentum to jump. Let's get purity. Meaning some people will be throw about those things. Then I may business. Then I may now why you be that or be planning sabons at the end of the day, they wouldn't even take that risk and
Yeah.
plus muhuya and kamat
Yeah.
na atetri.
You see that what it is people don't wealth is not built on certainty, right? It's built with vision and action
Yes.
and courage. Remember, courage. That side is where the risk is. We have to that follow no. Is a pioneers said you can be follow. It is one take risk a better what you follow. You have to take that risk because it's a risk now, mama. All the time be follow. Now safety. And then the side the third one is the fear of what people will say kills good ideas, whether abroad or back home. Many sit on business ideas or opportunities because of social pressure and judgment. Look, say we share the whole thing, right? Was West Brown KBB, yeah, Takas and pass it. If you go to the best place, ideas, vision, need those things in a cemetery.
Yeah.
Ade biara na ma yɛhyia cemetery nti de bia yɛhyia ideas bebree ɛwɔ kwae so ɔsɛ that's where ideas a amanfoɔ pɛ sɛ nkɔmmɔ put in place are buried. So many things anka wɔ sɛ amanfoɔ yɛ all because of amanfoɔ playing it safe. Those people ɔmo playing it safe. Ɛyɛ best sɛ wobɛyi those ideas no na walusu dan sɛ wɔde bɛkɔ na wa odi akokra.
Mhm.
You see, and then she said, "Oh shit, dear." Say you see through the obi beka. You see, not long ago, na me ye program na when you be bas na ye din kono no ka bibi. O tim se ne ho kire no pa ne finances ntoto yie. E dan o tim ntimi ntwea. But the amount for beka o so free then o kan straight. Was a bro na me free then ma dear na me neighbors beka. E dear na o beka. You see, ɛni sɛ wodwen saa nneɛma no ho koraa ɛni sɛ wodwen saa nneɛma no ba no wɔdwen ho ne nyinaa ɛba the same thing a yɛtaki risk a ɛdeɛ na amafo bɛyɛ ɛfɛɛli a the gossip wobɛyɛ community na saa gossip no ɛwɔ mu no yɛbɛgyagye me wote deɛ mɛkyɛ no judgment no nti no ɛne menkɔnkɔyɛ koraa na ɔde te hɔ no mewa to no pamadeɛ kama paa last time na me ne sister baako lomote yɛfrɛ sɛ ne ne kasa about ɔso ɔstate hyetɔ so ɔpɛ sɛ ɔyɛ hyetɔ na ɔsɛ ne husband kora beginning na ɔmfa ne tinge na ɔmfa ne tinge ɔno akorɔ sɛ afei no kyɛ sɛ adeɛ ɔmpɛ kora sɛ ɛbɛfrɛ no hyetora na afei sɛ yɛfrɛ no hyetora wɔtim sɛ ade no so no ɛbɛkɔ so you see to keep that bold step now the hyetor is everywhere wonim adeɛ pampaa because wɔ PhD nti no ɛdeɛ na amanfoɔ bɛka gossip about me because makɔ school na akɔbɔ PhD nti no mentimi mpam adeɛ no mepam adeɛ na mefɛre yɛbɛgyagye me no ni sɛ ɛyɛ saa ɛni sɛ wodwen saa koraa te sɛ deɛ meka na ɛsɛ ma wonyɛ authentic ɛma you are not of yourself ɛma nneɛma so many different ɛna ɛsɛ ma wonyɛ consistent so see who choose to save power Emma as we pay price far greater than occasional discomfort and to be able to be wealthy and also to be able to be successful no, you have to be discomfort somewhere or failure because and I would take it I lesson I would move on now to be able to do that no also your authenticity beba a innovation beba a personal growth beba because as we call now we fail now we see no and it's easy because all these people that you see that are successful no, they've gone through that path and you mufiti yana bibi yes just say we fan say failure no mum fan say it's a learning process mum fan say failure a learning process ni mu bebre also a ade no kra was start a wo ye ne mpokra no na wo sa pay approval from obi ho ye hwe system a sa hey it Ghana because me testament of that ye bibi kra ade na ekoso enso ye fa ne say no si ama meji approval and free abrochiri a enye yi ye business na ekoso ye adwuma na ekoso ye sika eba enso yes no yes aba be pay capital at the end ne be sa de akọ we are seeking validation approval from the west and sun if he said you was here you see ni nice are playing is safe ni no but to be able to do stuff you have to be very uncomfortable you have to go outside your comfort zone no more fear of what people will say because another we are there beka hey unya sika ebeka we nya sika ebeka udidi ebeka unidi ebeka bibia be ebeka you see I forgot who said this. One of my mentors, no, can say the first time that who financially power freedom when you're freedom, no, the first time who say people are not, he doesn't think about what people say about him. Money is free, yes, because when you have financial freedom, because when you have data, until then, no, you're still living the way people want you to live. You're living for people, you're seeking validation until the time. I'm who's adding. Me who said my life financially started improve when buyer. I don't care what you think about me. Your problem. Because I can't control that. The opposite of dream for me home. Mean to me. The only thing I can control is me. So you can only control you. So don't be scared of what people will say about you. You see, because it's going to kill that bold ideas that you have. The bold ideas are one the friends saying, "Mawa wasn't called banana bless it." We are saying. The Bible bɛfa no cemetery Satan had call. It said it was Lebanon kind or say when you been good ideas and can be by now no it be cranky at space ne nyinaa hyɛ hɔ.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I think number four, Tuani Awokana. So say, what if it fails?
Yes.
You know, the difference between the rich and the poor, or the rich and even the wealthy, if you want to take in these three categories: poor, rich, wealthy, ni nyinaa yɛ mindset. And yeah, no, you're training in such a way, say, you per se, tembian, near ashisha, juma, near the bay day, the bay juma. And until now, people don't want to even take risks and be entrepreneurial. You know, because we work about degree, master's, PhD, you per se at office. But we realized that the few ones who took a risk, oh, my man is young as a bay, you some mum na be ye achen omo follow the same pattern, you know, the pattern that gives you assurance, the pattern that is seeming to be certain, you know, and no na ye focus. Now, you see, what if it fails? But the question is also, what if it works?
Yeah.
You can only know by taking that risk. You can only know by taking that risk. Sit on our person, me ya ebia yen to on besre me ebia na enye de. Now you na say then so oh yeah, that's the so that is what you need, and you don't have anything to lose, but you can only know by what making that boast and to risk yeah am I who say getting the courage to take the first step. That is risk. Getting the courage to make that first step. I think that's the most successful people failed first, but they learned and tried again. What they hear call actually cry. Yeah, American who's here who Elon Musk. Now, space, Timbia, rocket, Yomudiko, what they call intimi. I just also here for now. We need to make it reusable. Or try na intimi meland na blast it sana for the picky or launch it was able to return and landed perfectly. But look at how many times he failed. Let's look at Thomas Edison. How many times he failed? But through the failure, they kept learning. And this whole part, the first of its kind is to take a risk. The risk might make you make a mistake because Nti afi o risk na wo ye mistake, you realize that you will learn. And the more you learn, the lesser you minimize your risk. And nti na in bebre omedi or abrabum no. Woman is scarcity. I'm sure to say papa despite. You want to see a man maybe at $10 million. Right now, he knows what to use the money for and how he will minimize the failure. But Yenke who said, proud to he getting to this stage, why mistakes be brave, like all numerous, uncountable mistakes, but they learn. If you study critically, people who are innovative, they are risk takers.
Yes.
People who are very innovative, they are risk takers. And viewers, listeners, know this. It is more risky not to take risk. So if you don't take risk, it's more risky not to take risk. I don't know how to explain. Is it of a web or
Obi,
from grammar? Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was say, your friend say, if you think education is expensive, wait for ignorance.
exactly. Wait for
So is that
ignorance.
if you don't do it at all, it's so risky because, like I said the can what the back chef for?
Yep.
What the back chef for? You know, me trust in free one.
And it's more risky not to take risk, Yeah.
Yes. See, Fred, I can't seem be. Name Fred no, Freddy. He said they now come about Edison Semi. Or say, nay, because of the weather,
Yeah.
Africa no. There was yama or yes, so many samples, and also so many research, ne trials, near the to say, Obenya sa we no. The last interview I'm here, also trying so many times. I think it was say 100 times to say, and sana ultimia, that means Edison kind of say yes, fail. There were so many ways, that 1,000 ways, and son were drew. No, you see, not taking risks there. So I quite remember so not long ago. Now few people, especially with DMV area. Hey, I think so you might even know, hey, we have federal job. It's like what the quite new,
Yep.
yeah. Say, we say federal job. You see, people were playing the safe. At the same time, it's good. It was good. Nation ain't good, and I say it was good. But if you even film federal jobs, people were able to go out there and make 150, 180, 200. But federal job was giving them maybe 100. If you do that for 10 years, I look at the difference. I understand, say, the your friend is saying the incentives, but look at that difference. No cry, people who take his high risk, they were making that difference. No, it's
Yeah.
maybe could be 200, by federal job, no more make it by 100. It's 10 years are over 1 million. Say, will be at when you are brave. Now, person will put that into use. I don't think that benefits no binyano. Bet me away that 1 million for 10 years. No, you see, because before now, I'm for your own federal being now. What I know is usually I'm for the 55 near there. I won't be call retire and come up benefits. No,
Mhm.
so taking risk, a risky crash and say one cry. So we don't have to rely, say, oh, to say, I say, you have to do something. Why? He said, "I can a failure." Now, the judgment, the D and it's all fun will be brave because who the NC when you there ultimate and yashi. You see, they be a meka by especially my memoir and I knew a man. We cherish you guys so much. Say we know what you guys are capable of doing when it comes to Niama and Niane at the permanent Saniaman. Ade a mentia se kran se de bia omuduru krom ha ya na sa risk na just won't be so take a risk. They want to play safe, you know. Tono boso kwakoye we. And unti ubi atna Walmart, why juma for Walmart, be 10 years, 15 years, making the same amount for so long. Unti mi kura move konani. Me wow to no boy bi anene so for man from some na papai. Or pamatade the show to say yes, or pamatade. You have to take that risk. You have to take that risk. Don't play it safe anymore. It's about time. I was saying, anyone can say, don't. And he said, what's not crass? Oh, yes, I hadn't view. Move forward. You see, number 5, see, even traveling abroad was a risk.
Wow.
Many left Ghana without knowing what to expect. That same boldness can be used to invest, build, and grow wealth. You see, apart from entrani yet take a cranny ade. Na baby abedani ade kra de bebre honum a and say omo mo ba chiri de niema changes a. You see, omo no mu di anim kakra no. Ebi so buy kra na che say bi wo kra bi wo da bus station one day kra say na bi kra watimi obi abi nya ba bi afa na baby sa. Amanfo take that risk no. They took that risk. I buy. It how mama to say I buy aba bi duru yentimi nya de wo say ka homa yetimi build the wealth no. I will see bit me grow your home. You see, if you don't take risks, the beyond baby ujina and ujina. Baby ujina and ujina. See, I'm not promoting this, but my foot me really fat in so a far way taking that risk and it me ba a bit true. Look at that risk. Almost life from me the tuso. I don't know. Me TS say anytime everybody's casting be also you can improve your life biano. Ubo say me what the koni yedwane. And so you better take that risk for different issues. So by anything, you better take it see a day boy financially be journey. Even in stock exchange, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The only place, the only store, things called sale no be a journey. Come who Walmart a sales, Costco a sales, obi a quacotobi.
Yeah.
And so a whole quad no be a journey. The same thing financially. You see, you better me a fence so aqua could drop brutally. You could drop brutally instead of say, you bet you was here, you know. To me build the wealth no ɛno deɛ yɛnyɛ ne yɛdwane.
Yeah.
Look, hwɛ amanfoɔ kwan a wɔfa so koraa tumi de tu kwan. And so the same people no ɛba be playing safe. And so wɔde ne nkwa atwa so ɛwɔ ɛpɛ sɛ kɔɔ baabi a na wɔsɛ ɔkɔkɔduru no ofi sɛ hɔ na wɔsɛ ɔtumi bɔ bra ɛma de yɛyie. And so duruyɛ wɔyɛ dɛn wɔde ne wɔamuvu akɔ bio. See that guarantee all the time sɛ de bi a yɛhia guarantee no it's not something that we have to do. Living Ghana, no, the unknown, but we had that courage.
Yep.
We had that courage, you know. But we share to say, a plane is safe. Now we are hoping. Hope doesn't build wealth. Hope doesn't make you successful in any angle of your life. So hope no. But you have to do the do. Nneɛma a ɛwɔ sɛ woyɛ a ɛbɛtumi aboa ma watumi tu mpɔn no ɛyɛ den a risk ɛka ho ɛwɔ wo life mu biribiara. Wosua adeɛ o, biribi a woyɛ biara no, saa na ɛwɔ sɛ ɛyɛ. Nti yɛntumi nyi saa ade no mfiri mu. Yɛntumi nyi mfiri mu. Yɛtu kwan a yɛafa nsuo so anaasɛ wode yɛfa the right way koraa yɛba koraa no, na yɛnnim deɛ ɛbɛsi. Yɛnnim deɛ ɛbɛsi nso yɛtumi yɛɛ. Yɛtumi yɛɛ. But guess what? Hwɛ mɛka biem about the risk amanfoɔ take. You see, ɛna ɛyɛ risky. Me sika paa deɛ mɛma no ada bank na meda bank a na ayɛ okay. Na mekɔ akɔto ayi yɛfrɛ no sɛn ayi ɔmo sɛ yɛ ɛkɔ so na aba fam ɛkɔ so na aba fam. You see, mɛmmɛ no nhunahuna. The only thing you have to know is say you have to know your risk tolerance. Now who risk tolerance, now who scar or the tour. It may bow out me manage it. You see, you cannot play safe. You have to manage risk. You cannot avoid risk. I'll be to me, I will be I was drew, baby, I drew, especially financially. The only thing you can do is to manage it. It's also grow in everywhere. Just manage that risk. It's in the say ufi say we will be or restaurants also higher. Yes. Your baby a bit do sika I hono Emma said you will be also hypertension, the cost of labor for to be hypertension. It's because more resources make work. Mrs. Jano, the because I don't know a cost never from Krana at the end, baby. You bet me I invest in via bonds, just saying cost, but all this kind of to bank party. I mean, Emma 0.02%, 0.025%. It can build wealth. You see, taking risk is like investing in 401k. Say me they build it. Me investing in 401k. Now me the billionaire. It does the math doesn't work because it was limit also. What did they say? Any you 401k and build it. Any billionaire simple. That's why billionaires, they have to create something. You have to. It's a different format. The same way, if you want to build wealth, you cannot say take away risk and stay safe, playing safe any year. And so build invest, just manage it and see your restaurants. You have the level of baby also to me edify about restaurants at me above. Instead of say the beer near playing safe.
Wow. Of a we are on hard you say also can say look at how people risk their life on the Mediterranean. What is more risky than risking your life in that situation? But I don't know about all kinds of my idea. I didn't know about sikasam so we hope.
Obviously, I can't think for.
We are hoping and we hope that God will make a change. But trust me, your life when it comes to taking risks, God will not take that risk for you because He has given you the mind, He has given you everything. But
And the ability.
Then we hope. I don't understand why. We really want to when it comes to world creation, we really want to hope. Just
Yeah,
hope
we've been tamed. We've been tamed when it comes to those things, They say they can now also started right from school. If you don't mess it up, don't mess it up. You see, yes.
Wow. No one builds wealth. With the Canada bank there, no one builds wealth by just saving. Saving is good, but money sitting in the bank can't multiply. And it's true. Nobody can come here and tell us in the bank amount up to 2% interest rate. I want to see and any checkings more and I say any savings more. It's not gonna happen. NC. But remember, the bank is also using your money for fractional reserve banking. Almost do sikani be a trade. And the funny thing is, if you are saving it constantly, and no be an loan through bank, no more mao more
And
in.
I go free.
You see how back then, yeah,
One day I will say how bank system works. Not about for
yes,
better. If you say be no
yes,
better abo man for moment, be invest kakra.
yes. We have to do that because nobody is saying that don't save. Yes, you have to save for your emergency. You have to save. But what if to savings? I remember that money would just be sitting there and then it would multiply. Inflation mechanic. 10 years ago, I did not $100 and $100 ain't minto into so Ghana. Now ABA 10 years ago, now we scar we go account, we be our 1 million Ghana cities, 100,000 Ghana cities. So the old me person misika beshe. One within a space of 10 years, said 9 and a half pieces we see. Look at the price of cement now. Look at the price of iron rods now, even labor, look, and even land. Look at the price of land now. But at that time, no, send out the own krana, scan out the two bank, invest in land, your paperwork no and they send 100,000. Now I'm pretty sure that you'll be gaining about 1 million. You didn't let the money sit. There were portion where I was sick and I know the unim secure about bottom. We know that I have to save maybe 5%. This is an example. But say, udi sikani nyina usuru se beshe umpeso de beshe business biemu usuru se sikani beshe eno ni efie no tubeko bi account wo sika wo mu bebre. But if that money is not multiplying, sika it go through about 3 stages. You earn it as an income, you save it, and then you use portion of it to invest so that it will what it will create a recurring sort of what money generation asset for you. But what you need now to savings no more. Can who say bank for no omo do sika no enso adwuma. Na say adwuma no aso na wo kobo besia wo can note or home loan, all those things and almost the interest amount. Now I then what you are even more of your own money that you could have used to do something. So what are we saying? Invest, even if it is $5 a day, $5 a month. Of about if we are saying and this year is save 7,000. Every week be a 1 year and a year save. It's the consistency that matters. Even if it is small, that smaller incremental, additions, will make you grow. If you are putting all your money in your savings, tell myself that okay, now let me find maybe whether it is an ETF, whether it's a mutual fund, or whether even it is a business. But then my main $5 per and share no mu every month. Now share difference between say we just cannot to account no na at that bones na inflation I can say and the for be brave. So one first can I need to do
Eh,
a
boga for everybody.
any well that's what they call Ghana inflation. Say yeah, burger for inflation change dollar no I had per se. But burger for our remittance inflation channel. But I remember previously, before the fall of the cedi, remember your friend told you that, oh, me who business we, yanko fani maybe in free China, me who land we, brabeto, me who we also Ghana for quite a month, Ghana for the my say. Now that money is sitting there. Wow, untimini waha. Also, I call Ghana. Oh, yeah, then. Oh, Boka. And that is one thing that we need to. And all these things, you'll be able to do it by taking that risk. Make that bold steps. Me, you, Minkase for second in kushi bibim, but make a bold step to use a portion of it to do something. If you really want to create wealth, you don't keep 90% of your money in your savings. Usikano. And of about one thing, and people brings you know, that bank be a much or FDIC insured. There is a limit to how much the bank can insure for your money. I think mostly it's
250.
250,000.
Yep.
Until you be more than that money, say share, it 250,000 pen or more than amount. Some banks could be lower than that. You move be bring kind documentation. It is a bank ni gune. A bit more so you can only $1 crab. And that is very, very, very dangerous. And most people don't pay attention to. But even if it is small, put it inside gradually, invest it, and you see a difference.
Madam for you say on you who say scanning the banks and okoro ko to na ni agiti over ma kasa bejai. You see, saving is wise, right? It is wise. No two ways about that, but it's
Yeah.
not enough. See, money sitting in bank, it loses value over time. It doesn't grow. It wastes. It's
Yeah.
one asset to work because would have 0.2%, 0.02%, 0.02% rather. Say now a bit by building real wealth, you must invest. Say the mini can small, kakra, kakra. We say at whole corner. You cannot say me invest it, build the world. Yes, and a world you build the world. Yes, and it. Yes, and a world with me building also to me making sure so we invest BB. Would the she be then also no head and risk. Send you city bia. Now would you see idea? Would you see BB? We say at walk. If you're not your friends start with inform like say small risk. You don't need millions to take chance. Start with say Ghana thousands, that's $100 crowd. Ne grew, and scale over time. You see, sometimes I didn't know I can see it not knowing, you see, fear. Not knowing. So when in BBA, you don't fear anymore. Gather information. Oh, because these days, it's so simple. Said these data, unlike first, now it was hard for you to get the data.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can get these data. Bet me a Google from anywhere. Chat GTP credits. I simple. You get so many information. Get data. Same if you made $50 net every month. I'm investing in something. I bet you the rate of percent I'll be every year, every month. Now calculate 10 years time. Send it. You see, if you say who's any man, I bet you my risk tolerance no so about from kakra.
Right.
So we see it me sua de. And man, any said the BI can see it, quantity bit in the IBP. May and train. Say I say the amount of food so much your monk one take race no ye. Ubia or this opportunity. Is it come? They were question say. Sometimes the animal fufi say, as a phone will be before be a investing a moment yeska. Bibi any hosa say bibi fufu bi hono mu invest yeska. Yɛmfa sɛ sɛ yɛnyina ɛkɔ stock exchange hɔ ne yɛkɔ akɔ invest a nneɛma na ɛyɛ opini na hɔ na mmom deɛ ɛteɛ ne sɛ ebia mene mmienu nyinaa akɔtɔ S&P 500 wokuta 500,000 na wotɔ S&P 500 mesoma kuta 50,000 wonya 10% ɛyɛ sɛn 50,000 mesoma nya 10% ɛyɛ sɛn 5,000
yeah.
The key is you take that risk sɛ also bɛtumi invest do 500 ni bi na also bɛtumi anya akɛseɛ ni bi amanfo fi say there's something secret somewhere for the sikafo. And yes, the same thing. No, it is sometimes cry no. Bidipa bi otaka or say the stock exchange hold the new races. The bit very risky for the hold the new races. What did they make it? Because it be any different be form. In him say maybe amanfo timi cry say hey your friend saying taxes, this any money now. They say to me, it drew our level so also being those benefits need be the same thing. So you have to take that risk. But men change sad, I can see be answer small be our being be another started. Now they starting now this year. And look right to me build it up. Because many 50 I made 250 now 50 now I didn't invest no year be on my to me conform bear market I from be at 20%, but year be so on man cost to 28, but on average me 10%. What's enough feel it any me for 70 me 70 me 100. Who said now no they say they make an information no knowing never more you will be fearful of that no be akwa be a unim bia no ema no usro it you be blow on ma ye play the safe ye nim no it hwehwe hu nim de wo hwehwe hu nim de betimi aboa no so kra na sama grow nye investment no kwa wo ye no grow now they say they all can will scale over time. See, these are the things that a betimi aboa me fi say nyama we ye bibi a betimi aboa yen ama yetimi a friend saying I'm managing risk instead of avoiding it completely. If you really want to build wealth, Minia, you cannot avoid risk.
Right.
My last one, Anka, take over. Let me take you over. My your friend is saying, I'm some man for meto.
History, no.
History na nafi. So obe free nafi.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but however, do you know the funny thing about risk? I know the way in Kanye, but people might think I'm being silly over here. But I was like, risk, crano. Your guys go high, you go school, no. Ultimus
Mhm.
go nika. But I'm gonna want the fine girls. You're going to I'm gonna want the fine girls
Because
because
we got confused, you know.
our
Oh,
risk,
hope,
you have to
oh,
grow
hope.
to make that bold say hey me kwa den three options either say obeka there be either so obeka ani and so obeka say me kwadwen ho but wo na why on home fanboy senior man and now nam ho if you don't take that risk she will not come to you and na bo say almost say quote in quote e be asebi e be almost say ma pen kwase for no not really that but there are certain guys they may not have anything they don't have it but they have that confidence oh, papa a president krana they will
Obeba.
face you
Yeah,
they
yeah.
don't care. Oh, papa is so for papa imam. They will come.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care whether, and that is the kind of risk taking that we are talking about. Nessa baby, but making that bold step, that
Yeah.
first
Okay.
step, no, that is the most important thing we are talking about today. So today,
Young ones, Munti, or Chaka say, what take you is that I have a papa growing you worry.
oh yeah, for Beth is true. One taking risk, it's true. Once a baby, so back some any, my but if you had made a bold step. Probably
Yeah,
maybe the one that you asked out one day will become a senator or a
yeah,
congresswoman. You may never know.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
looking down on anybody who is not a congresswoman though. But that bold step, say you have that desire. But your desire and your dreams are meaningless if you are not taking that bold step, which is the risk.
yeah.
Yeah. All
I
right.
agree. I agree.
Today in history, and it's if when history, we talked about trans-Saharan slave trade. It be also friend the Arab slave trade. We all know the transatlantic slave trade. I know just about 500 years ago, I know a sea and Che Biasa. Now, the most not spoken about form of slavery, which even caused a lot of damage to Africans, is what we call the trans-Saharan slave trade or the Arab slave trade. But let me state emphatically, but this is just for learning purpose. Again, yeah, attack you will be awesome. Ɛyɛ adesua na yɛn nyinaa yɛ de yi so ɛna ɛyɛ ade a ɛsi yɛnka ho asɛm because most of these Arabic states see it as a taboo ɔmo afɛre ho. Now what happened was that between 650 AD to 1920, this is about 1200 years, over 13 centuries. And as our slave trade year last year, a nipa about 10 to 18 million people had to go through this, and most of them perished their lives. Now, what happened was that these Arabian countries, when they had an influx in Africa, they came to eastern part of Africa, they came to the western part, the central part, and some of them even went to even the central part of Africa or the western part of Africa too. Now, mo funny pie, the more called the Mediterranean area, more called the Baghdad, Iraq, Mecca, that is Saudi Arabia. They took them to so many places in captivity. Ebi mu hɔ a yɛde ɛsom ne hyɛ ɔmo kɔn because wogye som ne tum a yɛnyɛ wɔ ayakayaka de. But what made this very, very abysmal or what made it very, very damaging to Africans is that if you take 4 people, emu 3 ma and then emu 1 bema. So we have a ratio of 3:1. Now, almost fa mmaa bebree ne nkwaraa bebree because the sole aim of this slave trade, majority of it, Sahara for no one, not a man no more, it was for their sexual pleasure. They took them as concubines, just like that. That was the main purpose. Now they took people from all over. A place like Zanzibar, which is in Tanzania, became one of the trading hubs. And honey, be free one of the more countries and be both be called Egypt and then send it be called India. And that is why when you go to India, you find black Indians over there. And this thing, one of the repercussion is that amani pano crown uko we say Sudan omo ye tuntumfo no any Somalia tuntumfo no kromo mpo even though these are Islamic states in Africa. And the one who has now championed the religion will fight for the religion but will not fight for Africa. So you come to Africa, the one who is called Ibrahim, is same thing for Christians when they went through the transatlantic slave trade. Neoma elected Pope Nicholas V or Marquina Alfonso I of Portugal elected. they took also as true that these two major religions has caused a lot of damage to the African. Nea meka sɛ ma ne yɛyɛ biem ne sɛ ɔmo to yɛn nuanom ma yɛ maame nom yɛ sisters no ɛmo naa ɛyɛ ɔmo ayakayakadeɛ pii na mmarima na ɛwɔ mu no nso this is what they did to them. They depopulated Africa, so they will castrate the few men whom they were able to capture. And what they did was that at that time the survival rate of this castration sɛ osa obi at that time no ɛyɛ 10%, and until your possibility of dying was really high because that is at 90%. Nti mema kakra no yesa omo na yesa untimi mbo unni oba da untimi na oba no kra betimi na koda de. And they saw with their naked eyes these Arabians sleeping with their own wives, with their own children, with their own daughters, with their own niece, and that left a damaging effect in the mind of the African. And we don't come to that realization, and we will always fight for that religion or for these two major religions at the expense of the people. To complete it, and found to form Africans are inherently welcoming, hospitable. Nti ne yɛ pɛ nipa sɛ yɛ pa ahohoyɛ. Nti ɛno no ɔmo nso ba Africa bi besua de ɔmo bedi dwa, and they use that as our weakness. We being hospitable as our weakness to subdue the people. Into or her, nyame person me can say, don't even let your religion restrict you, whether it's Islam or Christianity. Think outside religion. Think outside a sunnah woman. If you really want to grow, if you want to take risk, like we are talking about, think outside the religion because it will promise you that you are going to die and you will enjoy. It's a risk that you are taking. But what better risk is it for you to take that risk on earth, to put your money into something and then see the results right now? Because nobody has died and come back to tell us that risk not be taken is true. You are just hoping, you are just believing. And it's again, don't take it as an attack to any religion. It's a learning session that we are having, and these are historical facts that are there. You can check it. The history is there. Thank you.
That's it. Next week, I say share beam. Any akwesi be free mutino. Any a Joe, a Joe, maybe also this year. Joe, maybe also. So, playing is safe, feels secure, right? But it's an illusion. You know, it's kakra now there to banga inflation base, to your savings. Jobs disappear overnight. Salary, it will limit. But he name say salary require baby be hit silly. But he say investment. An investment and I say entrepreneurship. Gaining new skills, needs exponential. So we avoid the risk there. If he say a yet good thing. You make sure say you be manage risk instead of avoiding it. In life, risk okay who be especially avoiding the very doors it could lead to your long-term financial growth. So avoiding risk, that's what you're avoiding. Joe Michelle.
Mr. Murphy, are you cool?
Catch it.
Hi.
Udia my history can come my history pa. Minister also.
Oh yeah,
next time you be share memo my kakra. Can we betray? Yes, say risk. You journey free risk. Can we betray?
Yo, Mr. Murphy, me that's it. Kanka me penny number. Na minim so team dia nanka. Ya oni ne din kon so betumi nya na nanka o da WhatsApp me na nanka.
I mean, listen, Yama.
Me da mase pa se mo so mafato mo so na mo cheche na mo be sha sensu bia mo ya bakosem kaka. Abakosem na ebe kaka ye na no na be show de. Ansana even risk ya okay. Unni history no kura to me take a risk no. Esan say wo history no ba boa ma watuma take a risk. Wokɔ wachi na ohwɛ ne papa na na bi yeye nimdeɛ bi ene oni. Nanso esan say opɛ yedie pass it na pa. Ebinom kura de wɔn kwato esan kɔ pass asase bi to tu free hɔ no. No akɔ pass asase akɔ pa japade bi no de agya nkyirima. Ɔkɔ hɔ kura no ɔno nko na bedi kan akɔ asakra na wabefa ne nuanom even kura ɔmo matu kwan akɔ amono ne risk taking ɔbɔbɔ sika no risk taking na ma binom etu kwan akɔ amono ne ɔno mo bia wɔ hɔ nanso yedi ho kɔm de no na ɛwɔ mu sɛ wate nkyekye bi esi kɔ hɔ a wobɛdi yie no ɔyɛ n'adwene sɛ ɔbɛboaboa na ɛwɔ nyinaa no na watu kwan no akɔ nti nwinta so anaasɛ bibi mu nna hɔ koraa yi a deɛ ɛbɛma watake risk ɛyɛ bia botae bi esi w'ani so sɛ de botae bi si w'ani so a na wopɛ sɛ wodu mpɛmpɛnsoɔ bi a afei wobɛtu anammɔn ɛte saa nti sɛ woyɛ obi a wosuro wɔ abrabɔ mu a wonhu yiedie ɛsiane sɛ obiara ne ho wiase mu a ɔhyɛ aseɛ sɛ ɔyɛ biribi ɔyɛ ya na ɛyɛ yie ebi nsi da sɛ me deɛ meyɛ biribiara no na biribiara deda mu saa ma me a kɔsi sɛ biribiara yɛ yie daabi even nipa a ɔne wɔn nam mpo no ɛyɛ risk ɛsiane sɛ mo kyekyere no obetumi gya hɔ ɛbɛtumi gya hɔ nom ɔno na onim wagya wɔ hɔ nom na w'ani nna nanso agya ɛno nti sɛ one take a wontumi hu no yiedie ɛna wo take ni nso no ebie w'adwene mu na ɛma wonhu wiase na ɛma wohunu baabi a wotɔ si nti ɛboa nipa ɛka adesua ho sɛ bere biara wayɛ wo ho sɛ me deɛ akakra na mɛbɔ kakra no ho ban mempɛ me ho asɛm mekɔyɛ na ɛkɔyɛ ka a sɛ asɛm aba o dabi yɛma ɛnyɛ ka ɛyɛ ka a adwene bɛba ama wode adi ho dwuma na bere a wode adi ka no ho adwuma no wobɛhu sɛ wɔsɛ asua biribi foforɔ wobɛhu sɛ bie w'adwene mu wobɛhu sɛ bie ho kwan ama wo nti yɛsɛ biribi sɛe no na biribi yɛ yie nti sɛ woandwere ho ansɛe biribi a wonnya biribi nti wokɔyɛ no wonni ho nimdeɛ saa na ɛteɛ na wonni ho nimdeɛ no nso no sɛ ɛbɛsɛe no ɛwɔ soro na ɛsɛe na ɛkyerɛ sɛ wosua adeɛ nti abrabɔ no mu deɛ ɛyɛ risk taking ɛsiane sɛ obiara nkɔɔ hɔ da wonyɛ bi da wonnim sɛ ne mu sɛm teɛ nti gye sɛ ɔkɔyɛ na wonya suahunu ne yɛka sɛ suahu ahoroɔ nso yɛ ɔhaw ahoroɔ a wahyia a watumi adi so na ɛma wonya experience na ade no bi ntoo da wobɛda tu obi fo wonkɔyɛɛyɛ ɛmɛnsɛɛyɛ yɛkɔka ho asɛm a wobɛda na waka bi wontumi nka bi nti obi a ɔwɔ suahunu anaa ɔwɔ experience obi a mɛka sɛ abrabɔ mu no ne nimdeɛ wɔ soro no ɛyɛ obi a watumi adi ɔhaw ahorow dwuma a watumi adi ho dwuma so wahyia na wadi so wadi so ɛno na yɛba wo nkyɛn wobɛtumi ayɛ dɛn aka bi akyerɛ nti ɛka abrabɔ no ho risk ne deɛ ka ho nti more na wo take na ɛsɛe no na ɛhyɛ wo den na ɛboa wo nti topic na mode aba no very great one take risk a wontumi bi odi yiedie nkurɔfoɔ bɛyi wo ama adwuma no bɛsɛe ɛka bɛba ɛbaa na wogyina mu na wosi ano solve a ɛno ne yiedie no saa na ɛteɛ aba no a wasolve no ɛsiane sɛ yiedie no ɛwɔ ɔhaw mu o Mr. Befi sika wɔ ɔhaw mu sika ɔhaw mu na ɛwɔ ɛwɔ nipa nkyɛn ɛwɔ mɛka sɛ ɛwɔ service product ɛna nipa problems mu nti problem na aba no wotumi solve pɛ yiedie ɛna ɛnna hɔ saa kɛkɛ yiedie no ɛfoa nka obi ayɛ yie ɛfoa nka obi ayɛ yie ɛnyɛ fo no nti na obi ntumi nyɛ yie nti sɛ woyere ho take risk no na ɛto fam a ebie w'adwene wo sɛ abɛbie mu a ne ngye ni sɛ wobɛyɛ ne sɛnea woyɛ ne first na daabi ɛsiane sɛ wodi ka nya suahu no nti woba bio mu a wonim ɔkwan a wobɛfa so ayɛ na kakra no wobɛhu sɛ wadi ho dwuma wodi ho dwuma pɛ na wasi yiedie kwan so na ama atotɔ mu nti ɔne kaka mo bɔ adwuma paa nti me so kakra a mede bɛka ho ne sɛ ɛyɛ abrabɔ no nyinaa deɛ ɛyɛ risk taking obiara ni hɔ a wayɛ biribi da nti wobɛhyɛ aseɛ wobɛhyia saa na ɔhaw dodo a wodi ano no ɛno na kyerɛ wo yiedie onipa dodo a watumi asi ɔhaw dodo ano no ɔwɔ yiedie nti pɛ bi na wo nso solve take risk no ɛto fam a ɛnyɛ hwee ebe bie wadwunim ebe mo hu wiase ebe mo se na ubesisi wo niam ebe mo hu namfo mpo se namfo no kra mo ame ebe mo watumi aye well selective ebe mo watoto niam yi won make good decision na aboa mo wasi yedie kwan so nti na ba fi yeda ase pa na ebe pebre na yaso yakọ history no mu kakra na yehu na ekwe
next time me alert na say what we my history no also be my history no be near there ti said ye nua joke no a part of us nye bibi a betimi aduane agya no bia obefa bia no ubehia no ti risk ne de so opese odi yi pa de a you have to take it yeah na your friend say cool being can say I don't know that form why yeah the prequel because so that form already especially as the winning here you know na obusako play safe I didn't be in shade anyhow you know we take risk na a chance say obe play safe no risk there bibi a baby a befa bia no obehia no ntimi nko engya no ti said the new jo achichi mu kama na yo em say Joe
ndaba bi
em say ebehwe na ya end this show no na next week ni ato aso but me get in touch na next time you know so be program ni bi na oso aba ti say the make na no ya bebree say amafo timi di omo life itwa so
one thing ndaba bi that be history about great person na de tia omagidin te say Nelson Mandela mo te say Kwame Nkrumah mo about heroes of Africa be hu say ampa African so ni pe tina say bom te say Bob Marley say they are great people. I need to celebrate them. If I was young one day, anyone say, and so we're teaching Western world, more philosophers, make I say professors, philosophers or more sure one day. Africans you will be. Before we say Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela mo, any empires are all right. A more who say, oh, you be great. Bit say yes and twamo. Almost no the Africa, Nina and Chile, is Shian ebe mo waju ho de uye bribia ebe boa pa nti Mr. Bavi ebe pebre na ya bi
ena ne kra sankrofo na so no omu take risk o hwe omu
yes
take risk
yes
ena ma omu timi boa
pa
yeman ene boa Africa no omu na
because
take
ebe
risk
okwa ku na okọ ye na ebetimi achiwa mo de fi ebetimi kure ku na so ye oye nti na wa fi ye nti ye di ga besua de ni ya koya ba kose mu kakra
you know like I said I get in touch na hwe dey bia ebetimi ayewe
what
and finally no the can say if also make a difference if you want a different future you can't keep making the same safe choice now and you know playing it safe and keeps you where you are be out taking calculated risk you know is what makes you move forward baby bia wo bia baby bia wo ye bia no say investment bi na pɛ sɛ woyɛ a ɛntwɛn sɛ bi sɛ menya 1 million anaasɛ ɛntwɛn sɛ me wɔ 20 na medeɛ mesuro mede kɔsi ma ɛbɛhye sɛ ɛbɛhye koraa no a sɛdeɛ mekaeɛ no you can avoid risk manage it it is say 20,000 apɛ sɛ wode kɔ a okay ne mu deɛ ma memfa 10 koraa ntoɔ na memfa 10 nkɔhyɛ mu na sɛ 10 no ɛkɔ so no afei mu sɛ bibia na mede de aka akɔka ho sɛ wo avoid risk koraa deɛ yɛnyɛ ne saa ɛma ne ha adwene yɛ saa na baabi a wote na wote nti to know to if you want a different future, say them kind won't be play safe. Yes, I be more baby out na and say a case baby out na so na and yes, we are here. Either say you are going forward or you are going backwards. Everything moves. Bibi and you baby jina sa. Even a dying crazy way. When in and carry we say a movie. Bibi a movie around to say dear. Ebitimi movie na aba bedru nkonya no saa na tie bibia movie bibia no gyina faako so if nipa wo movie na bibia wo gyina it means say wo kofom and I say you are deteriorating it you know all the time so we say then take risk calculated risk and ebitimi move forward yes and so risk intino na wo take risk bia calculated one but ni nan se wo besua de se wo sua de a it changes saa na mani na se wo nim adia because emu bebre on ma Idea is through taking risk, because we don't know. You any what you nim idea no ho abakosem a e change bibia e wo se wo. Bibia wo ho abakosem no e change se ne sitie e ma ko deep e ma ho se ne sitie e ma no se adan kra me ya ase ne beye. Yeah. You can say, make sure say you spend it wisely, save intentionally, and be generous. See you. Yo, and yeah, actually, bye bye.